My name is Nicholas Harrington, and I'm 29 years old. 6 days ago, I buried my father in an oceanfront cemetery in Miami, under a sky so bright it felt like an insult. 3 days after that, I sat in a lawyer's office and watched my stepmother inherit everything: our $22 million Star Island villa and 85% of my father's company, valued at $30 million. And 2 days after that, she stood in the doorway of the home where I grew up and said 5 words I'll never forget: "Go die in a dumpster." I left that night. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. Because I knew something she didn't. My father was a builder, a real estate developer who spent 40 years constructing an empire in Miami. And builders don't just construct buildings, they construct plans. He taught me from the time I was a kid, a structure is only as strong as its foundation. Every beam, every column, every wall has to carry weight according to a blueprint. Scarlett was about to learn what happens when you build your life on sand, because the will she heard, that wasn't the whole story. The funeral was 3 days after he died. Heart attack, massive. They said he was gone before the ambulance even arrived. 200 people showed up: employees from Harrington Development Group, tenants from our 8 properties across Miami, competitors who respected him, friends who'd known him for decades. The cemetery overlooked the ocean, his favorite view. He used to say water was honest. It didn't pretend to be anything other than what it was. I stood at the graveside in a black suit that felt too tight, watching them lower the casket into the ground next to my mother's. She'd been gone 7 years, a car accident that took her too soon, too fast. For 7 years, it had been just me and Dad. And then, 4.5 years ago, Scarlett. She stood beside me now in a black designer dress, her face perfectly composed, her phone in her hand. I watched her angle it slightly, taking a photo of the flower arrangements, for her Instagram probably, at Scarlett's Empire. 183,000 followers who watched her live what she called her best life. I felt Patricia's hand squeeze mine. Patricia Donovan, my mom's best friend from college, my father's accountant for 40 years, the woman who'd been more of a grandmother to me than my actual grandmother's. She was 68, Cuban-American, and the only person in my life who still called me Mija. "Your mama would be so proud of how strong you are," she whispered. I nodded. I couldn't speak. If I spoke, I'd break. 2 days later, we gathered in Stanley Robbins's office for the reading of the will. Stanley was Dad's estate lawyer, a nice guy, professional, sympathetic. His office was in Coral Gables, all dark wood and leather chairs. Scarlett sat across from me, her legs crossed, her manicured nails drumming against her phone case. I sat next to Patricia, who held a tissue in one hand and a rosary in the other. Stanley cleared his throat. "I'm so sorry for your loss. Charles was a remarkable man." Scarlett smiled tightly. "Thank you. Can we begin?" Stanley opened the folder. "Of course, the estate is substantial, so I'll summarize the key provisions. The Star Island residence, valued at approximately $22 million, passes to Scarlett Rains Harrington." Scarlett's smile widened. Additionally, 85% ownership of Harrington Development Group LLC, with a current valuation of approximately $30 million, passes to Scarlett Rains Harrington. I watched her shoulders relax. She actually laughed, a short, satisfied sound. Stanley continued, his voice steady. "Subject to the terms of the LLC Operating Agreement filed with the state of Florida." Scarlett wasn't listening anymore. She was already texting someone, her thumbs flying across the screen. But I heard it. "Subject to the LLC Operating Agreement." Patricia's hand found mine again. She'd heard it too. Stanley looked at me. "Nicholas, you're named as beneficiary of a separate trust, the details of which will be provided by Mr. Castellano of Castellano Trust Law." I nodded. I had no idea who Mr. Castellano was. Stanley closed the folder. That concludes the primary provisions. If there are any questions. No questions, Scarlett said, standing. Thank you, Stanley. Send me whatever I need to sign. She walked out without looking at me. I sat there, staring at the place where she'd been sitting. Mija, Patricia whispered. That woman didn't even hear what he said, subject to the operating agreement. You know what that means? I shook my head. It means, she said slowly, the will isn't the whole picture. Day 1 after the will reading, Scarlett started redecorating. I came home, I still thought of it as home, to find workers removing my mother's portraits from the walls. The photo of her and Dad on their wedding day. The picture of the three of us at my high school graduation. The candid shot of her in the garden, laughing, her head thrown back in pure joy. Where are those going? I asked one of the workers. Storage, he said uncomfortably. Mrs. Harrington's orders. I found Scarlett in the living room, directing an interior designer through fabric swatches. Scarlett, Mom's pictures. She didn't look up. This is my house now, Nicholas. I'm updating the aesthetic. Your mother's style was very 2010. My mother died in 2019. I went to my room and closed the door. Day 2, Patricia called me. Nikki, I'm looking at the company credit card statement. Your stepmother spent $38,000 yesterday. On what? Hermes, Chanel, Bal Harbour shops. Your father's been gone 72 hours. I closed my eyes. Okay? Okay? Mija, that's not okay. That's... I know, Patricia. I know. Day 3, Scarlett brought a realtor to the house. I was in the kitchen when I heard her voice in the foyer. I want to sell some of the properties. This Star Island aesthetic is very 2015. I'm thinking Venetian islands, more modern, better water access. The realtor, a woman in her 50s with a tablet and a practiced smile, nodded. The market's good right now for commercial real estate. What's the portfolio? 8 properties, office buildings, retail centers. I'll send you the list. I stepped into the foyer. You can't just sell the properties. Scarlett turned to me, her eyes cold. I'm sorry, did you inherit 85% of the company? No, but... Then this doesn't concern you. She turned back to the realtor. My late husband's son. Still adjusting. Day 4. I tried to have a conversation about the business. Scarlett, the company isn't just assets, it's employees, tenants. People depend on... I'm aware of what a company is, Nicholas. I'm not stupid. I didn't say you were. I just think we should talk to Patricia, maybe look at the financials before... She laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound. Patricia works for me now, and I don't need a 29-year-old lease attorney telling me how to run a $30 million company. Your daddy's gone. This is mine. Day 5, she threw a party. I heard the music from my room, heard the laughter, the clink of glasses, the voices of people I didn't know filling the house where my father had died less than 2 weeks ago. I looked at my phone. Instagram. Scarlett had posted a story, a photo of champagne flutes with the caption, New Beginnings. The next slide was a video of the villa's infinity pool, lit up against the night sky. Living my truth, the caption said. I turned off my phone. Day 6 started with me needing access to my father's office. I knocked on the door. Scarlett was inside, going through his desk. I need to get some of Dad's documents, personal things. She looked up. Personal things? Like what? Letters, photos, his... Those are in my house, Nicholas, in my office. I'll decide what happens to them. Scarlett, they're family documents. They belong to me. I'm his widow. You're just the son from a previous marriage. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Just the son? That's right. She stood up, crossing her arms. This is my villa, my company, my documents. You have no legal rights here. I lived here for 20 years. And now you don't. Pack your things, Nicholas. You're not welcome here anymore. She smiled. Go die in a dumpster for all I care. The Ring camera on the wall caught everything. I could see the little red recording light blinking. I packed that night. Clothes, books, my laptop, a few photos I'd kept in my room. I loaded everything into my Honda Civic, a car I'd bought myself, paid for with my salary as a commercial lease attorney at a firm in Brickell. As I pulled out of the driveway, I looked back at the villa. Scarlett was on the second-floor balcony, champagne glass in hand, talking on the phone, laughing. I didn't feel anger, I felt something else, something quieter, patience. My father had taught me that some structures take time to collapse. You just have to wait for the right pressure point. Day 7, Patricia called me at 7 a.m. Mija, where are you staying? I was in a Motel 6 off I-95. The room smelled like bleach and old carpet. I'm fine, Patricia. Don't lie to me, where are you? I told her. Absolutamente no. Get your things, you're staying with me. Patricia, I can't. You can, and you will. I have a guest room. Your mother would kill me if I let you stay in a motel. Move, now. An hour later, I was standing in her condo in Coral Gables. It was modest, bright, filled with photos. Photos of my mom, photos of me as a kid, photos of her and my parents together over the years. Sit, she said, pouring Cuban coffee into 2 small cups. We need to talk. She opened her laptop and turned it toward me. Spreadsheets. Company financials. I'm still the accountant, at least until she figures out how to fire me. So I see everything. She pointed at the screen. The company valuation is $30 million. True. But look at the liabilities. I scanned the numbers. $16 million in debt? Mortgages? Construction loans? Liens? Your father ran a leveraged portfolio. That's normal for real estate development, but it means the net equity is $14 million, not $30 million. Does Scarlett know this? Patricia laughed. She hasn't asked to see the balance sheet. She heard $30 million and stopped listening. I kept reading. The villa has a mortgage? $12 million. Your father refinanced 2 years ago to fund something. I'm not sure what. Maybe the trust Stanley mentioned. She pointed to another line. Monthly payment, $52,000. She has to pay $52,000 a month? If she wants to keep the villa, and she has no income, Nikki, no job. Her Instagram doesn't pay the bills. Day 8, the first mortgage payment came due. Patricia called me, barely containing her laughter. She just called me screaming. Why is there a mortgage? Why was $52,000 taken from the account? What did you say? I told her it's been on autopay for 2 years. She said she thought the villa was paid off. I said, why would you think that? She hung up on me. Day 10, Scarlett tried to access the LLC bank account. Patricia forwarded me the email. I need to withdraw $200,000 for personal expenses. Patricia's response, per the LLC Operating Agreement, I need board approval for withdrawals over $50,000. Scarlett's reply, I am the owner. I don't need board approval. Patricia's response, you're an owner, not the sole operator. Different roles under Florida law. Day 12, Scarlett posted on Instagram. It was a photo of her on a yacht, champagne in one hand, designer sunglasses on her face. The caption, living my best widow life. My father had been dead 13 days. Patricia screenshot it and texted it to me. Evidence, mija. Day 15, a tenant called Patricia, Mrs. Sullivan, 82 years old. She'd lived in one of our properties, a modest apartment building in Little Havana, for 15 years. My father had kept her rent low because she was on a fixed income. She yelled at me, Mrs. Sullivan said, her voice shaking. I called about the air conditioning. It's broken. It's 90 degrees in here. And she screamed at me. She said, fix it yourself. I'm not a landlord. Patricia's hand was shaking when she hung up. That woman, she said quietly. La sinvergüenza. No shame. That evening, we sat on her small balcony, looking out at the Coral Gables skyline. Your father, Patricia said. He knew, didn't he? He knew exactly who she was. I nodded. I think so. Then why did he marry her? I thought about that. I think he was lonely after Mom died, and Scarlett was charming when she wanted to be. She made him laugh for a while. And then? And then he saw the real her, and he built a plan. Patricia looked at me. What kind of plan? I don't know yet, but I'm starting to think. I paused. Stanley said there's another lawyer, Castellano. He has information about a trust. You haven't heard from him? Not yet. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then, your father was the most careful man I ever met. He read every contract twice. He never left anything to chance. I know. So if he left you something with another lawyer, something separate from the will, there's a reason. I looked at her. You think he built a test for Scarlett? She smiled. It was a sad, knowing smile. I think he built a structure, mija, and she's failing it in real time. The call came on day 11, a private number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Mr. Harrington? The voice was older, measured, authoritative. This is Vincent Castellano. I was your father's attorney. We need to meet. His office was in Brickell, on the 40th floor of a glass tower with views of the bay. The waiting room was all mahogany and leather, old school, expensive, the kind of place where billionaires planned their estates. Vincent Castellano was in his late 60s, Italian-American, with silver hair and a handshake that was firm but not crushing. He wore a three-piece suit and gold cufflinks. Thank you for coming, Nicholas. Please, sit. I sat. He sat across from me, a folder on the desk between us. I'm sorry for your loss, he said. Your father was a brilliant man, one of the most brilliant I've ever worked with. Thank you. How much did Stanley tell you about me? Just that you have information about a trust. Vincent nodded. That's accurate, but incomplete. Your father and I spent 8 months designing something, not just a trust, a legal foundation. He opened the folder and slid a document across the desk. This is the LLC Operating Agreement for Harrington Development Group, filed with the state of Florida on March 15, 2023, 8 months before your father's death. I picked it up. It was thick, maybe 60 pages. This document, Vincent said, supersedes your father's personal will with regard to the LLC assets. I looked up. Supersedes? Florida law is clear. When you own a business through an LLC, the operating agreement governs how ownership is transferred, not your personal will. Your father's will said Scarlett inherits 85% of the LLC, but the operating agreement adds conditions. What conditions? Vincent turned to a marked page. Section 7.3. I'll read it to you. He put on reading glasses and began. Upon the death of the primary member, ownership of the LLC shall transfer to the Eleanor Harrington Foundation, unless the surviving spouse demonstrates continued care and support for the decedent's children, as defined in Section 7.4. I felt the air leave my lungs. Eleanor Harrington Foundation? Your mother's name. Your father established the foundation 2 years ago. It's a charitable organization focused on providing housing assistance to individuals and families affected by cancer. My mother died of cancer, ovarian cancer. 3 years of treatments, surgeries, hope, despair, and finally, peace. He built this, I said quietly, in her name. He did, and he made it the default beneficiary of the LLC. But, and this is crucial, if Scarlett treats you with continued care and support, she keeps everything. The foundation never activates. What qualifies as continued care? Vincent flipped to Section 7.4. Maintain the decedent's children's right to reside in the family home for a minimum of 12 months. Refrain from hostile, abusive, or cruel treatment. Allow reasonable participation in business decisions. He looked up. She kicked you out on day 6. She did. And said, quote, "Go die in a dumpster." How do you— Ring camera. I had your father install them throughout the house 18 months ago. Everything is backed up to a cloud server I control. I stared at him. You've been watching. I've been monitoring. There's a difference. I'm not interested in her private life. I'm interested in whether she violates the conditions of the operating agreement. And she has, repeatedly. He slid another document across the desk. A villa deed. This is the deed to the Star Island property. Your father filed a right to reside clause 10 months ago. You have an irrevocable legal right to live in that home for 12 months following his death. She can't remove you without a court order based on criminal activity or property damage. She already removed me, which means she violated your legal rights and breached the operating agreement, twice. He folded his hands. Nicholas, your father didn't build this to punish Scarlett. He built it to protect you, and to test her. If she'd been kind, if she'd honored your grief, allowed you to stay, treated you with basic decency, she would keep everything. The foundation would never activate. The conditions would be satisfied. My vision blurred. I blinked hard. He loved you, Vincent said gently. He loved you so much that he spent the last 8 months of his life designing a legal structure to make sure you'd be okay, no matter what she did. I couldn't speak. If I spoke, I'd break. Vincent stood, walked to a cabinet, and poured 2 glasses of water. He handed me one. There's more, he said. The operating agreement includes a 60-day monitoring period. I document everything. Her behavior, her spending, her treatment of you, her treatment of tenants and employees. At the end of 60 days, I make a determination. Did she satisfy the conditions, or did she breach them? We're on day 11. Correct. 49 days left. But honestly, Nicholas, I have enough evidence already. Day 6 alone would be sufficient, but I'm giving her the full 60 days, because when we move, I want it to be airtight. When we move? Vincent sat down again, his eyes steady on mine. In 49 days, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to be ready to answer it. What question? Whether you want justice or revenge. Your father built this for justice. Don't let grief turn it into revenge. I looked at him. What's the difference? Justice, he said, is giving her a choice. Revenge is destroying her without mercy. Your father wanted justice. He wanted her to face the consequences of her choices. But he also wanted her to have a way out, a dignified exit, if she chooses it. And if she doesn't choose it? Vincent smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. Then she loses everything. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in self-destruction. Day 16, Patricia sent me a text. She just tried to refinance the villa. Bank said no. Insufficient income. At day 18, the second mortgage payment hit. Patricia called me, laughing. She called the bank screaming about errors in the system. They very politely explained that the payment is correct and has been for 2 years. Day 19, Scarlett contacted a realtor about selling the villa. Patricia had a friend at the agency. The realtor told her, luxury real estate in Miami takes 6 to 9 months minimum, and at $22 million, the buyer pool is extremely limited. How'd she react? Poorly. Day 20, Scarlett tried to sell one of the LLC properties. She called a developer, one of my father's competitors, and offered to sell a prime retail center in Wynwood for $8 million. The developer called Patricia to verify. Is this legitimate? Patricia, God bless her, said, any sale of LLC assets requires board approval per the operating agreement. Has Mrs. Harrington consulted the board? There's a board? There is. I'll send you the bylaws. The developer backed out. Day 22, Patricia made her move. She froze LLC distributions. As the financial controller, a role specified in the operating agreement. She had the authority to freeze distributions if actions by a beneficiary threaten the company's interests or violate fiduciary duties. Scarlett's Instagram posts showing company properties, her attempts to contact competitors about sales, her public comments disparaging tenants, all of it qualified. Scarlett called her, screaming. I was at Patricia's condo when it happened. Patricia put the phone on speaker. You can't cut off my money. I own this company. You own shares, Mrs. Harrington. You're not the operator. I am, and I have a fiduciary duty to protect the company's interests. I'll fire you. You can't. I'm appointed by the operating agreement, not by the owner. You'd need to change the operating agreement, which requires a supermajority vote of all members. I have 85%. Supermajority means unanimous consent for certain provisions, including my removal. Scarlett hung up. Patricia looked at me. How much you want to bet she's never read the operating agreement? No bet. Day 23, Scarlett fired the property manager, Julian. He'd worked for my father for 15 years. He was a good man, detail-oriented, fair, respected by the tenants. Scarlett fired him for talking back. His offense? Explaining that evicting an elderly tenant for being one day late on rent was illegal under Florida law. Julian called me, crying. Your father was like a brother to me, Nicholas. I can't believe this is happening. I'm sorry, Julian. It's not your fault, son. It's hers. Day 24, Scarlett posted a photo on Instagram. She was standing next to a white Bentley Continental. The caption, Upgrading my life. It was leased, according to Patricia's investigation, $4,200 a month. The comments section was brutal. Your husband died 2 weeks ago and you're posting this? Disgusting. No class. Show some respect. Day 27, Vincent called me. We have 47 documented violations, breaches of the operating agreement, violations of your right to reside, fiduciary misconduct, tenant abuse. We could trigger the foundation transfer now, but I want to wait. Why? The more rope we give her, the more she'll hang herself. I want this to be so overwhelming that she has no choice but to accept the settlement. What settlement? We'll discuss that on day 42, but trust me, Nicholas. Patience. Day 29. A private investigator Vincent hired documented Scarlett meeting with a commercial real estate broker at a restaurant in South Beach. They were discussing selling all 8 properties, liquidating the entire portfolio. The investigator got photos, audio, everything. Day 30, Patricia pulled me aside. Mija, she's drowning, and she doesn't even know the water's rising. Day 32, Scarlett's credit card was declined at a restaurant. Someone filmed it, posted it on TikTok. It went semi-viral. The video showed her screaming at the waiter. Run it again, there's money on that card. The waiter, embarrassed. Ma'am, I've run it 3 times. It's been declined. This is ridiculous. Do you know who I am? The comments were worse than Instagram. Day 33, Scarlett tried to borrow against the villa. The bank reviewed her application, reviewed the $12 million existing mortgage, calculated her equity, calculated her income, 0, denied. Day 35 at 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Scarlett. Your dead father tricked me. I'll burn this company down before you get it. I screenshot it, sent it to Vincent. His reply, perfect. The next morning, Vincent called. She just retained a lawyer, a real estate attorney. He's going to contest the will. Can he? He can try. Can. But the will is ironclad, and the operating agreement is filed with the state. The moment he reads it, he'll tell her she has no case. Vincent paused. This is going to force our hands sooner than I expected. We move on day 42. Meet me at my office. We're going to discuss the ultimatum. Day 36. I sat in Vincent's office while he laid out the plan. Her attorney will find the reference to the operating agreement in the will, eventually. When he does, he'll request a copy. I'll provide it. He'll read section 7.3 and 7.4, and then he'll call me. What will you say? I'll offer a meeting. Scarlett, her attorney, you, me, day 42, 6 weeks from your father's death. We'll explain everything. And we'll give her a choice. What choice? Vincent slid a paper across the desk. Choice A. A calculated settlement based on the length of her marriage and Florida spousal support guidelines. She signs a complete release, transfers all LLC ownership, signs an NDA, and walks away with cash. How much cash? $185,000. I stared at him. $185,000? From a $30 million company? From a $14 million company, after debt. And she was married to your father for 4.5 years. Under Florida law, for marriages under 5 years with a significant age and wealth disparity, that's a generous settlement. And choice B? She declines the settlement, keeps her inherited assets. The villa with the $12 million mortgage she can't pay. The LLC shares that transfer to the foundation tonight. She can fight us in court, spend $200,000 in legal fees, and lose. Every cruel thing she's done gets entered into the public record. Her Instagram followers get to read about how she told you to die in a dumpster. I sat back. You've thought of everything. Your father thought of everything. I'm just executing his plan. Day 37, I went through the evidence with Patricia. We sat at her dining table, surrounded by printouts. 63 documented violations, Ring camera transcripts, Instagram screenshots, witness statements from Julian, from Mrs. Sullivan, from 3 other tenants, bank records showing frivolous spending, emails attempting to sell company assets without authorization. This is, Patricia said quietly, the most thorough takedown I've ever seen, and I've been an accountant for 40 years. I picked up one of my mother's old journals. Patricia had kept them after Mom died. I opened to a random page, Mom's handwriting. True wealth is measured in the lives you improve, not the things you own. I closed the journal. She would have hated this. What? Mom. She would have hated conflict, lawyers, legal battles. Patricia put her hand over mine. Your mama would have hated Scarlett treating you like garbage more. Don't confuse kindness with weakness, mija. Your mother was kind, but she was also strong, and she would have wanted you protected. Day 38, Scarlett's lawyer called Vincent. I was in Vincent's office when it happened. He put it on speaker. Mr. Castellano, my client believes there's an error in the estate distribution. Vincent's voice was perfectly calm. No error, counselor. Would Mrs. Harrington like to meet? I can clarify the structure. A pause. The structure. The LLC Operating Agreement. I assume you've reviewed it? Another pause. Longer. I've requested a copy. I'll send it today. After you've read it, call me back. We'll schedule a meeting. He hung up. He hasn't read it yet, Vincent said. How do you know? Because if he had, he would have called her first. Told her she has no case, told her to take whatever settlement she can get. And when he does read it? Vincent smiled. He'll call back tomorrow, and we'll set the meeting for day 42. Day 39 and 40, I tried to prepare myself emotionally. I visited the properties, walked through the apartment building where Mrs. Sullivan lived. She hugged me, crying, thanking me for checking on us. I went to the office building in Brickell where my father's company had its headquarters. Talked to employees who'd known him for years. He always said, one of them told me, take care of people, and the properties take care of themselves. Day 41, the night before the meeting, Patricia cooked dinner. Ropa vieja, my mother's favorite. We sat on her balcony, eating in comfortable silence. Tomorrow, mija. Tomorrow she learns. I pushed food around my plate. I don't want to hurt her, Patricia. I just want justice. Justice isn't hurting her, Nikki. Justice is letting her hurt herself. I looked at the city lights, thinking about my father's last words to me. 2 weeks before he died, in the hospital. A foundation supports everything above it. But if you build on sand, the whole structure collapses. I didn't sleep that night. The meeting was at 2 p.m. in Vincent's conference room, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Biscayne Bay, a long mahogany table, water glasses, notepads, pens. Scarlett arrived 7 minutes late, wearing a cream-colored pantsuit and too much jewelry. Her lawyer walked beside her, a nervous-looking associate in his 30s, carrying a briefcase. Vincent and I were already seated. I was there as an observer. I wasn't planning to speak unless necessary. "Thank you for coming," Vincent said, standing to shake hands. Scarlett didn't shake. She sat down hard, crossing her arms. "This is ridiculous. The will was clear. I inherited everything." Vincent settled back into his chair. "Mrs. Harrington, the will was indeed clear, but wills don't govern LLC assets. Operating agreements do." He slid a document across the table. "This is the operating agreement for Harrington Development Group LLC, filed with the state of Florida on March 15, 2023, 8 months before your husband's death." Scarlett's lawyer, I never caught his name, picked it up, flipping through it. His face went pale. "Turn to section 7.3, please." The lawyer did. I watched his Adam's apple bob. Vincent began to read, his voice perfectly level. "Upon the death of the primary member, ownership of the LLC shall transfer to the Eleanor Harrington Foundation unless the surviving spouse demonstrates continued care and support for the decedent's children as defined in Section 7.4. Scarlett's head snapped up. "What?" No, the will said—" Vincent held up a hand. "Mrs. Harrington, did you listen carefully to the will reading?" She blinked. "What?" "At Stanley Robbins' office, when he read the provision about the LLC, did you listen carefully?" I remembered. Stanley's voice. "Subject to the terms of the LLC Operating Agreement." Scarlett's face flushed. "That was just legal language. Boilerplate." "It was," Vincent said quietly. "The key to everything." He opened a binder. Section 7.4 defines continued care and support. 3 requirements. First, maintain the decedent's children's right to reside in the family home for a minimum of 12 months. He slid a Ring camera transcript across the table. Day 6, quote, "Pack your things, Nicholas. You're not welcome here anymore. Go die in a dumpster for all I care." End quote. Scarlett's lawyer was reading the transcript, his face ashen. "Mrs. Harrington," he said quietly, "did you say this?" She didn't answer. Vincent continued. Second requirement, refrain from hostile, abusive, or cruel treatment. He slid more documents across. Instagram screenshots, text messages, witness statements. Firing a longtime property manager without cause. Attempting to evict an elderly tenant for being 1 day late on rent. Posting celebratory content on social media 6 days after your husband's death. Sending threatening text messages to Nicholas. Each document landed on the table like a stone. Third requirement, allow reasonable participation in business decisions. You attempted to sell company assets without consulting the board. You've refused to attend board meetings. You've blocked Nicholas from accessing company information. Scarlett stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "This is illegal! You can't—" "Florida Statute 605.0105, Vincent said calmly. "Operating agreements supersede personal wills for LLC assets. I can cite 40 years of case law if you'd like." She turned to Nicholas, her eyes wild. "You did this! You poisoned him against me!" I spoke for the first time. My voice was quieter than I expected. "I didn't do anything, Scarlett. You did this to yourself." She was breathing hard, her hands shaking. Her lawyer was reading the operating agreement page by page. "Mrs. Harrington," he said slowly, This is airtight. The foundation clause is valid. The monitoring period is valid. If they have documentation of breaches—" "How much documentation?" Scarlett's voice cracked. Vincent slid another folder across. 63 violations over 35 days. Everyone documented, dated, witnessed, or recorded. She sat down slowly, heavily. Vincent let the silence stretch. Then, Mrs. Harrington, the Eleanor Harrington Foundation will assume ownership of the LLC at 11:59 p.m. tonight. However, he opened a final folder. My client has authorized me to offer you a choice. Scarlett looked up, mascara starting to run. What choice? Vincent slid two documents across the table, one labeled Choice A, one labeled Choice B. Choice A, he said. You accept a settlement of $185,000. Cash. Wired to your account within 24 hours. You sign a complete release of all claims to the LLC. You sign an NDA prohibiting you from discussing the settlement or the circumstances of the estate. You transfer ownership. You vacate the villa within 10 days. You keep your personal items, your jewelry, your car lease through the end of the term. You walk away with your dignity and enough money to start over. $185,000? Her voice was a whisper. That's it? From a $30 million company? A $14 million company, Vincent corrected, after debt. And you were married to Charles for 4.5 years. $185,000 is calculated based on Florida spousal support guidelines for marriages under 5 years. It's a generous offer. And choice B? You decline the settlement. You keep your inherited assets. The villa, with its $12 million mortgage and $52,000 monthly payment that you cannot afford. The LLC shares, which transfer to the foundation tonight regardless. You hire lawyers to contest this. You spend $200,000 in legal fees. You lose. Every violation we've documented becomes part of the public record. Every cruel thing you said, every email, every text, every Instagram post. Your 183,000 followers will read about how you told a grieving son to die in a dumpster 6 days after his father's funeral. He leaned forward slightly. Choice A, some money, a clean break, privacy. Choice B, nothing, public humiliation, and legal fees you can't afford. Scarlett was staring at the documents, her face white. Vincent stood. You have until 2 p.m. tomorrow to decide. After that, the offer expires. He walked to the door, opened it. Scarlett's lawyer helped her stand. She was shaking. At the door, she turned back to me. Did he? Her voice broke. Did he ever love me? Really? I looked at her. I wanted to lie, to say something cruel, but my father had built this for justice, not revenge. I think he loved who he hoped you could be. She made a sound, half sob, half laugh. And if I had been kind? You would have kept everything. The foundation would never have activated. The operating agreement has a satisfaction clause. If you'd treated me with basic decency, Vincent would have certified compliance. You'd be a wealthy widow and we wouldn't be having this conversation. She stared at me, understanding finally hitting. I chose this. You did. She left without another word. Her lawyer paused at the door. She'll take choice A, he said quietly. She's not stupid enough to take choice B. After they left, I sat in the conference room, staring at the bay. Vincent poured 2 glasses of water, handed me one. You did well. I didn't know how to finish. Sad? Yeah. That's appropriate. This isn't a victory, Nicholas. It's a resolution. There's a difference. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about Scarlett's face. The moment she realized. The moment she understood that every cruel choice, every dismissive comment, every act of contempt had been building her own cage. At midnight, I checked Instagram. Her account was gone. All 183,000 followers, every post, every story, deleted, like she was erasing the evidence, or erasing herself. Patricia called at 8 a.m. Did she decide? Not yet. She has until 2 p.m. What do you think she'll do? Her lawyer said she'll take choice A. But pride is a strange thing. At 1:45 p.m., Vincent called. She's here, alone, no lawyer. I arrived at 1:50 p.m. Scarlett was sitting in the same conference room, in jeans and a t-shirt. No makeup, no jewelry. I'd never seen her like this. Plain, small, human. Vincent and I sat down across from her. She slid a folder across the table. Choice A. Signed. Vincent opened it, reviewed the documents. Release of claims. NDA. Ownership transfer. All signed and notarized. Wire transfer will complete by end of business today. $185,000 to the account you specified. She nodded. You have 10 days to vacate the villa. We'll arrange movers. You can keep your personal belongings as outlined. Another nod. Vincent stacked the documents. Is there anything else? Scarlett looked at me. Her eyes were red. When do I leave? You have 10 days, but you can go sooner if you prefer. Sooner. Her voice was hollow. I can't be there. Silence. Then quietly. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was scared. I didn't respond. I grew up poor, Nicholas. Really poor. And when I met your father, I thought I'd finally made it, that I'd never have to be scared again. And when he died, I panicked. I thought if I didn't grab everything, fight for everything, I'd end up back where I started. So you chose fear over kindness. She flinched. I did. You had everything, I said. If you'd just been decent, if you'd let me grieve, if you'd been patient, you would have kept it all. I know. A tear ran down her face. What would you have done if I'd been kind? The foundation would never have activated. Vincent would have certified that you satisfied the conditions. You'd be sitting on a $14 million company, living in a $22 million villa, and I'd be somewhere else. Probably still close to you because you'd have been the only family I had left. She closed her eyes. I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. You were afraid, but you let fear make you cruel, and cruelty has consequences. She stood, picking up her purse. I'm sorry, Nicholas, for what it's worth. It's worth something. She walked to the door, stopped. He was a good man. Your father. I know. I wish I'd been better. For him. For you. Me too. She left. Vincent watched the door close. Interesting choice of last words. What do you mean? She didn't say, I wish I'd tried harder. She said, I wish I'd been better. As if being a good person was something outside her control. I thought about that. Maybe it was. Maybe. But we all make choices, Nicholas. Character is built one choice at a time. She made hers. At 11:59 p.m., I received an email. From Vincent. Subject, transfer complete, body. Effective 11:59 p.m., January 15, 2025, ownership of Harrington Development Group LLC has transferred to the Eleanor Harrington Foundation per Section 7.3 of the Operating Agreement. You have been appointed as Executive Director. Welcome to your mother's legacy. I sat on Patricia's balcony, looking at the Miami skyline. My father had built an empire. My mother had inspired a foundation, and I was holding both. What now, mija? I looked at Patricia. Now we build, but differently. Not for profit. For people. She smiled. Your mama would love that. Over the next 3 days, Scarlett moved out. I didn't go to the villa. Didn't want to. The movers handled everything. On day 9, the movers called. She left something for you. It was a box. My mother's photos, the ones Scarlett had put in storage, and a handwritten note. These belong to you. I'm sorry I took them. S. On day 10, the villa was empty. Vincent scheduled a walkthrough. Patricia and I drove out to Star Island together. The house felt different without furniture. Smaller somehow. Echoes. We walked through the rooms. My father's office, my mother's studio, my childhood bedroom. Patricia touched the wall in the living room where my mother's wedding photo had hung. What are you going to do with this place? I'd been thinking about that. Sell it. Sell it. The foundation needs funding. The villa is worth $19 million after the mortgage is paid off. That's enough to build something meaningful. Like what? Like housing, real housing, for families fighting cancer, for people who can't afford $3,000 a month while they're trying not to die. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. Your mama would love it, I know. 6 weeks later, the villa sold, $19.5 million. To a tech executive relocating from California, the mortgage was paid off. The foundation received $7.5 million in net proceeds. The rest went to taxes and costs, but $7.5 million was enough. Vincent and I used it to fund the Eleanor Harrington Memorial Housing Complex. 12 units. Brand new construction in Little Havana, near my mother's favorite Cuban restaurant. Below market rent for families affected by cancer. On-site support services, partnered with Sylvester Cancer Center. The opening ceremony was on a Saturday in June. Patricia cut the ribbon, crying so hard she could barely hold the scissors. The first resident moved in that day. Mrs. Sullivan. The elderly tenant Scarlett had tried to evict. She hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. Your father saved my life when he kept my rent low, she said. And now you're doing the same thing. God bless you, Mr. Nicholas. God bless you. 6 months after my father's death, I stood in a small office in Coconut Grove. My office. Executive Director of the Eleanor Harrington Foundation. The walls were covered with photos, before and after pictures of our properties, thank you letters from residents, a framed copy of the foundation charter, and one photo of my parents, their wedding day. My mother in white, laughing. My father looking at her like she was the only person in the world. We'd helped 47 families. 47. The LLC was profitable, not wildly, but steadily. $180,000 in monthly revenue. After expenses, about $50,000 a month went to the foundation, enough to keep growing. I'd quit my job at the law firm, didn't need it. The foundation paid me a modest salary, enough to cover a small apartment and groceries. I didn't need more. I'd started dating someone. Emma, an oncology social worker I met through the foundation. She reminded me of my mother, kind without being soft, strong without being hard. Patricia still ran the books. She'd never retire, she said. Not while there's work to do, mija. One afternoon, Patricia forwarded me an email from a realtor in Arizona. FYI, Scarlett Rains remarried. New husband is a retired executive, 67 years old, worth $8 million. Thought you'd want to know. I stared at the email. Patricia called. Did you see? I did. And? I hope she's happy. I really do. You're more generous than me, mija. Maybe. Or maybe I just don't have room for anger anymore. Life's too short, and there's too much work to do. That weekend, I drove to the cemetery. My parents were buried side by side, overlooking the ocean. I brought flowers, sat on the grass between their headstones. Hey, Dad. Hey, Mom. The ocean was loud, waves crashing, constant, honest. The foundation helped its 50th family today. A mom with breast cancer and 3 kids. We got them into one of our units. They cried, Dad. They cried because they didn't think they'd have anywhere to go. I touched my mother's headstone. Mom, I think you'd be proud. We're building something real, not just buildings, community, hope. I touched my father's headstone. Dad, I found your letter, in the safe. Vincent gave me the combination last month. The letter had been dated a week before he died. Nikki, if you're reading this, the plan worked. I didn't build this structure to punish Scarlett. I built it to protect you, and to honor your mother. The foundation, both the legal one and the charitable one, was always about love, not revenge. Your mother taught me that the only wealth that matters is the kind that helps others. I spent my life building buildings. You're going to build something better. You're going to build legacy. I'm proud of you, son. I always have been. Build well. Build with compassion. Dad. I'd cried for an hour after reading that. Now, sitting between their graves, I felt peace. Justice doesn't have to be loud, I said. You taught me that. The quietest structures are often the strongest. You built a foundation that held, even after you were gone. The sun was setting, orange and gold across the water. Scarlett wanted an empire. What she got was a lesson. What I got was a legacy. I stood, brushing grass off my jeans. I'll be back next week. Love you both. I walked back to my car. Patricia was waiting, leaning against the hood. You okay, mija? Yeah, I am. What now? I looked at the sunset, thought about the families in our housing units, thought about the employees who'd stayed with the company because they believed in the mission, thought about my mother's dream of a world where kindness mattered more than money. Now we keep building, one foundation at a time. My father always said, a structure is only as strong as its foundation. I used to think he was talking about buildings, concrete, steel, load-bearing walls. But he was talking about character, about the choices we make when no one's watching, about whether we build our lives on greed or on grace. Scarlett built on sand, and when the tide came in, she lost everything. My father built on bedrock, and 6 months after his death, his foundation is still holding me up. So here's my question for you. What are you building on? Because eventually, every structure gets tested. The wind blows, the ground shifts, the pressure comes, and when it does, you'll find out what your foundation is really made of. Build well. If you've experienced something similar, betrayal, injustice, or the slow revelation of someone's true character, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if you believe in building foundations that last, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for listening.